Well, there's no shortage of financial advice out there right now, but unfortunately, not all of it is good. And that's what we're going to talk about today in this video. We want to highlight 10 retirement myths that a lot of people still believe. Maybe you've heard them quite a lot, and you might expect them to be true, might assume that they're accurate, but we're going to tell you why you can't always believe what you hear and why they could derail your financial plan. So, Ryan, let's jump into these. We got 10 to dive in today. And again, if you haven't joined us before, thanks for being here. Ryan is a certified financial planner at Black Oak Asset Management. You can always get in touch at speakwithryan.com. We try to provide as much information about financial planning, about Ryan, what Ryan and his team do every single video that we produce here on the channel. So let's dive into this, Ryan. So the first one here, I want you to explain. So the more financial plan ways, the more valuable it is. I think people expect, hey, if I've got a long financial plan or my advisor gives me something that's really long and lengthy, it's got to be better.
Yes, I've seen these before. And actually, this is not like a show prop, but like I see, this just happened to be on my desk actually, but you see like binders like this and people have them and they never open them again. So it's real nice and fancy when you see those sort of things. But I've had plenty of people come in who work with another advisor or get a quote unquote free financial plan, and that's what is spit out and they never look at it again. So definitely not more valuable the larger it is. You want to make sure you can be as complex as you want to be, but the ultimate plan should be somewhat simple. There's a ton of varieties that we can do from a financial planning standpoint, but let's kind of keep the nuts and bolts of it, just like fundamentals in sports. Keep it simple, but work on those things over and over and over again, but keep it simple. That way it's easy to follow.
All right. Number two here is, my life is simple, so a will is all I'm going to need. When people think about estate planning, that's kind of the belief they think. If I don't have a whole lot, what do I need anything more than a will, Ryan? But why is estate planning so important, even if you don't have what you feel is like a lot of assets or a lot to leave?
Yeah, this can be misconstrued sometimes. At least have a will. So that is some sort of estate planning right there, having a will. There are as many people out there who do not have a will and they die intestate. And so it's kind of up to the courts. Now, when I say up to the courts, every law has different state-specific laws. But if like you're married, the spouse is going to get those assets. And so, but it can just be drug out a little bit longer if there was not a will in place. Or even some type of trust. And some people hear that word trust and they think you have to have gobs of money to have a trust. That is not always the case, especially if you have minor children. Having a trust is even probably better to have. But at least having a will, financial power of attorney, medical directive, those things, you at least need to have that. But also the most basic estate planning you can do is to make sure your beneficiary forms are filled out correctly on those types of accounts that you have, whether it's retirement or non-qualified accounts. Make sure those beneficiary forms are correct. I've seen those go the wrong way really quick.
Yeah, and your advising team should be helping you with this as well. So if they're not, please feel free to reach out to Black Oak Asset Management and get some second thoughts and a review on your total situation. All right, here's our third myth, Ryan. My spouse will be fine when I'm gone. They're only going to need half as much income. So why is it not that simple?
It's not. The income just doesn't get cut in half. And I don't know if I have a good reason on the math on that, but it just doesn't happen that way. You get used to a certain lifestyle and certain things, and having one person not in the picture anymore, it just doesn't cut that income in half. There's usually anywhere from about 75 to 80% of that previous income. When the married couple are together, that's usually what the income is needed. Just like when we hear a married couple going into retirement, well, you only need 60% of your income. Well, that's usually not true either. It's much, much higher. So that is usually not the case, just knowing. So when we plan ahead, especially if there's an age difference between a married couple, we like to factor in about 80% of that previous income while that husband or wife were still around. Once they pass away, that you still need about 80% or so of that income.
Yeah, so important to have a plan for that. I know it's not a discussion you want to have about one of the spouses passing, but you need to make sure your loved ones are taken care of because it's not as straightforward as many people believe. All right, our fourth myth here, Ryan. When I retire, I need to dramatically shift from stocks to bonds. I mean, this has been, I guess, a pretty common belief for a long time. But why is that investment strategy going to be different for a lot of people?
Yeah, I mean, for decades, that was not bad advice. Now the interest rate environment has changed so much. So when interest rates were so high back in the 70s and 80s, and they started to come down, again, interest rates and bonds have an inverse relationship. As interest rates start coming down, bond prices start going up. So for a long time, bonds was like, hey, take away the volatility of the market, and you're still getting 7-8%. That's, most people's like, sign me up. CDs getting sometimes double digit gains per year. It's like, sign me up for that. Well, that's just a little bit different now. Now I know our interest rate environment has kind of been a little high and it's tapered down just a little bit. But again, if you still look at the history of the stock market, and I can hear it now. Oh, it's different now. It's different now. No, I mean, if you look at the history of the stock market, I mean, even within that year, there's negative. Like last year, I mean, the market was down as much as 19%, and it ended up up 18%. That's about the S&P 500 when you reinvest the dividends. But it's still like there's going to be volatility. But again, if you stay the course, you kind of benefit from volatility. So it's not just turning the dial all the way to bonds. You still need to stay in the market. I'm okay if people want to dial it back some, but that's why sometimes I have issues with target date funds. I think they get too conservative too quickly. Now that can differ depending on what target date fund that you're looking at, but there's a ton of opportunity, because even if you retire, you may still be around for another 35 years. So you want to stay in the market and get those kind of potential bigger returns than what kind of a fixed income vehicle will produce.
All right. Our fifth myth here, and again, another investment myth. If the market crashes, I'll just stop spending until it recovers. People will actually back out of the market. It's a pretty common natural feeling, right? A human kind of belief, and the emotion takes over and you want to just kind of pull it all together, Ryan. But why is that a bad approach potentially?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen. So can people make modifications to their spending habits when the market crashes? Sure. I saw it during COVID. Of course, people were like restricted to their homes almost. So there was not as much extra spending going on, because every time you leave the house now with your family or kids, it's $100, I swear, every time you leave, if not even more when you go out and do something. But so if there's less of that, then there's potential for the spending to be cut back. But just because the market has a dip, I mean, I didn't have any clients really come to me last year when the whole tariff volatility issues were going on. The market was having a pullback. I didn't all of a sudden have my retirees going, oh gosh, I don't know when this is going to end. Let me just, stop sending me my distributions each month for my retirees. No, they kept spending. Now, if it's a longer period, now that was pretty short lived. It was about 3 months worth. But if it's a longer duration of that, then hopefully people will modify their spending. It doesn't mean they just completely cut it out, but it can be a real thing where people cut back when the market does take a dip. But in all actuality, people usually continue to have that lifestyle. Like we mentioned before, when a spouse passes away, you almost can continue that same type of spending over time.
All right, we're talking about some retirement myths that could derail your retirement. And the next one, Ryan, Social Security, a big part of many people's income. But for some people, they just believe that Social Security will take care of most of their retirement income. It could be the case, but why is this often a myth?
Yeah, for some, this could be the case, but this is where, like, even if people we work with are like, oh, and this is people who are not receiving Social Security yet. Oh, it's not going to be there. I don't want to count on it. I get it. I understand the rationale. I would love it if you could save, like, Social Security is not going to be there, but as advisors, that's irresponsible if we do not factor that in. So just having an idea of what your Social Security benefit is going to be, you may look it up and look at, wow, at full retirement age, which is 67 as of now. At 67, I'm getting $4,200 a month. And then you look at your spouse and they're getting $3,800. Well, that's real money on a monthly basis. That is real money. So when you start having incomes, when you have a married couple and it's close to 10 grand per month, that's super meaningful. But you don't want to just rely on that. Hopefully they have other assets as well. But I've seen people with a $1,200 a month benefit or even less than that. So that's not going to get you very far. So don't rely on Social Security as a majority of your income. But if it ends up being that way because you don't have a ton of debt and your mortgage is paid off and your monthly, I've done income plans for people where their Social Security benefit is higher than what their monthly expenses are. So their income plan, their success rate is 100% because they're not taking anything out of their retirement accounts until they have to with RMDs. So we have clients like that their spending is less. So, but because they work so hard and work so long that they had this great benefit, don't rely on it. But if it happens, more power to you.
Yeah, for sure. All right, got a few more here. Next one deals with taxes, Ryan. I think people often assume that they're going to be a much lower tax bracket when they retire. Obviously, no more paycheck coming in. They just assume there's less income. Mm-hmm. But why can this get you in trouble?
Yeah, I mean, being in a much lower tax bracket is usually not the case. Can you be in a lower tax bracket when you get to retirement? Sure, absolutely, you can, because you don't have that paycheck coming in per month for working. Your paycheck now is coming from your investments or your pension or Social Security. So I love tax diversification when you get to retirement, having maybe some pre-tax, having some tax-free, and having some after-tax or taxable accounts that's taxed at capital gains rates. So having tax diversification, depending on what types of accounts you have, are great. The people who have Social Security and a huge IRA, you have no wiggle room whatsoever. Every dollar you take out of that IRA is going to be taxed a certain degree. So that can sometimes push you to a higher tax bracket, which would affect your Social Security benefit, and that can affect your Medicare premium. So you could be in a lower tax bracket, but significantly lower usually is not the case. Most of the time, the clients we work with are about in the same tax bracket as they were when they were working. So again, having tax diversification in the types of accounts you have is crucial.
Yeah, so true. All right, here's our eighth one here, Ryan. I don't need a written plan because I know my numbers. I think a lot of people just think they can handle it on their own, but break this one down for us.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some people come in with just unbelievable spreadsheets. I mean, that's great, good for them. And some people can do that. I just seen where that can work out for some, but it is a very, very few. Most people just say, hey, let me see the plan. What can we come up with? How much can I spend per month? I need for you to help me with this, not only nail down my spending, but also sending me that money on a monthly basis. Like, what am I selling each month? That's what gets overwhelming for a lot of people, is the decumulation phase. What accounts am I taking out of? What investments am I selling? So that's where that can make a huge impact over the course of your retirement, is what accounts are you pulling from and which investments are you selling at that particular time. So having that written plan and then having an advisor to help you out with that, I think is crucial. Again, some can do it. I'm not going to poo-poo on people that can do it for themselves. Great. It's just they're probably not ideal clients for us or any advisor out there, but that's a rare few.
Yeah. Well, for those that are maybe thinking they don't need a plan as much because their belief is I can always work a little bit longer if things don't go as planned. I know this is a myth, Ryan. It's not that simple, is it?
Not usually. I mean, age discrimination is not supposed to be a thing, but it's a thing. So getting a job that maybe you want to do or that is rewarding. I mean, I've had even my father, when he retired, he was like, oh, I'll go do something, just keep him busy or whatever. And as soon as they retire and have a couple of years of freedom and not having a schedule, very few are willing to go back. And my dad didn't need to. He was just like, hey, I'll go do something, or go to Home Depot or whatever. And that's never happened. And good for him. I'm glad it hadn't. But I don't want you to have that as a backup plan to, oh, if things don't go as planned, I'll just go back to work. Sometimes it's not that easy.
Yeah, it can be a little trickier than that. So you don't want that to be your kind of your backup plan potentially. So last one here, we'll close out with, Ryan. Once I retire, my financial decisions will get easier. Things never seem to get easier as life goes on, Ryan. So I imagine the same is the case for retirement.
100%. Just ask any retiree who just retired if they're busy or if they're just sitting around doing nothing. I don't know how many, just about every single client that we have. Oh, I'm more busy now than I don't know how I got anything done. I mean, I hear it all the time. I get it. It's just different. You're replacing different tasks and different to-dos with what you were doing throughout the day. You just when you work all day long and you have to take kids somewhere, you just have to cram things in and figure out what to do. Well, you have more time to do it in retirement, but you're still super, super busy. At least the ones that we work with, they're more busy than they were, but the decisions don't get any easier. They get more complex. They get harder. Trust me. Sometimes people are like, well, I don't think I need an advisor. But I think when people really do need one is when they do get to retirement. I think they need one beforehand to set them up for a successful retirement. And again, some people can do it on their own, but a lot of people need help with these huge decisions because maybe a husband and wife have differences of opinions on things, and sometimes a advisor can kind of be a mediator between those two things. But these decisions get bigger and bigger, especially as you get older.
Well, there you go. 10 retirement myths that you just need to be aware of, right? And again, this is what planning can do. It can take away some of that doubt, remove that doubt, make sure that you do know where you're headed, why you're doing the things that you're doing from a financial planning standpoint. And if you have questions for Ryan, we encourage you to reach out. Speakwithryan.com is the website. You can hop right on Ryan's calendar right there, or go to blackoakam.com to learn more about Black Oak Asset Management. All that is in the show description. You can find it there to get in touch with the team. But hopefully this helps you out. If you did, please subscribe. We have more videos coming every single week. We'll talk to you again then. Ryan, take care.
Thanks, man.